Hey everybody, owner of an actual Carmilla channel here, and today in celebration of the upcoming Summer Carmilla banner, I feel like I wanted to make a little review video on my favorite servant, Summer Carmilla. Now obviously from my recent uploads that might seem like a lie, but you'll just have to take my word for it. I feel like this review would be a little bit more interesting than some of my previous ones, as Summer Carmilla is not a clearly overpowered character compared to some of the other servants we've discussed before. Would this video just be a huge excuse of why I no longer use her in CQs? Or would it be a elaborate ritual to get me my 4 more copies of Carmilla to finally 120 her? Regardless, let's get into today's review of Summer Carmilla. Carmilla's first skill is Femme Fatale False A. It has a chance to seal one enemy's skills for 1 turn, it reduces their defense against critical damage by 50% for 3 turns, which effectively acts as a 50% crit up for the entire team, but only on one enemy, and it gains 15 stars. Her second skill is Phantom Thief's Calling Card A, which inflicts the Calling Card Scent Delay debuff on an enemy for 1 turn, which doesn't do anything on the turn that it is applied, but on the next turn, it drains them by 1 gauge and charges the entire team by 25 MP. This skill also reduces the enemy's crit chance by 30% for 3 turns. Her final skill is Mistress CEX. It absorbs all enemies' HP without killing them. Now, absorbing HP means she heals as much as the HP she deducts from the enemy. So, per target, she reduces their HP by 2000, and how much she heals depending on how many targets there are. She also applies 30% defense down for 3 turns on all enemies. Finally, her MP is Testarossa Maiden. It is an AoE quick MP with 4 hits, and it inflicts buff block status on all enemies for 1 time 3 turns. It also inflicts quick down after she deals her damage, according to Overcharge. It scales all the way from 20% to 40%. Carmilla can easily fit in as a crit rider DPS. Her first skill provides a sizable crit resist down and 15 stars. It's an all-in-one bundle skill that works on any crit servant, and especially her, considering she's a rider, those 15 stars can provide quite the high crit chance. Her MP gives enemies a lingering quick down effect after damage, so the more you MP, the harder she hits. The MP also blocks 1 buff from the enemy, which can be extremely useful in fights where the enemy is scripted to use some kind of defensive skill on breaks such as Demeter, or other disruptive skills like Invul Pierce. She also has quite the sustain against high enemy count nodes due to her skill 3 healing scaling up with how many targets she drains HP from. In the rare case where she's facing a 6 enemy node, with a single press of the button, she can heal 12,000 HP. It is a trait that most people often overlook, and I think it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, this is where I run out of good things to say about her ability to be a DPS. And now follows the plethora of problems that she has when trying to be the sole damage dealer in a team. First of all, her MP damage is abysmally low. With essentially only an AoE 30% defense down and quick down proccing only after damage, Carmilla really struggles to pull big damage numbers, especially on turn 1. Sometimes even outdamaged by bronze servants such as Blackbeard. Her kit being all debuff and being quick worsens the problem twofold, especially when facing high debuff resist enemies, as not only her own debuffs can't land, but neither can both Scotty's skill 2. Carmilla also has a really bad MP refund, making her either having to heavily rely on her arts card to refund her MP, or just completely foregoing the MP plan and go in with pure face cards. At which point you'll realize having only 1 buster card for this is a bigger problem than initially seems. She also is completely out of the question when talking about quick loopers, as her MP gain is so bad that not even plugging Oberon in with double Scotty helps her loop. So far it would seem like the cons outweigh the pros in terms of Summer Carmilla. However, that is due to the extreme polarizing way this character is designed, making her only fit one unfortunate role, a taunt fodder support servant. If you take a look at Carmilla's skill set, we can easily see that every skill down to the effects on her MP are all debuffs. Importantly, debuffs that stick after she leaves the field. Her second skill especially demonstrates that, as at first glance a delayed MP charge instead of a direct one seemed like a straight downgrade, until you consider how it still activates after Carmilla is no longer in play. For boss fights and challenge quests, especially fast clears, Carmilla is a Swiss army knife that can provide all you need for bursts of damage, a lingering crit resist down, stars, delayed MP charge, and AoE defense down. The skill seal on her first skill not only stops the enemy from casting annoying defensive buff or debuff skills, it also guarantees the enemy to attack with all three actions, ending in a swift yet unfortunate removal of a taunt fodder or Carmilla herself from the front lines. Having her die off even mitigates her one disadvantage as a support, which is her Rider class and their tendency to steal stars from the main DPS. Quite unfortunate for poor Carmilla. Her entire game plan falls apart with a single debuff immunity effect, but I think having one weakness that denies your whole game plan is not that big a deal for secondary supports compared to a DPS. Obviously, as a secondary support, Carmilla doesn't always have to die off. Especially on caster heavy levels, I think she can serve as a really decent DPS support hybrid servant. She can keep the team from being critted to death with her crit down debuff, as well as control the enemy's MP gauge with her delayed charge drain. Her crit resist down effect is essentially an AoE crit up buff that can benefit the entire team that is casted on a single target. The quick down and the buff block on her MP makes it a really decent effect to lead with in an MP chain. Finally, in a class stacking setting, there are other riders that provide good support that can help her with her refund. Supports such as Rhinus can easily boost her MP gain, as well as chain arts chains with her 2 arts cards, allowing her to keep on repeating her MP, decreasing the enemy's quick down, and also repeating buff blocking them. Overall, I think Carmilla is a victim of extreme design. Her relatively underwhelming ability to chain her MPs, as well as a complete lack of self-buff, heavily hinders her ability as a main DPS. She is not unusable however, as for fights that require skill seal and buff block, she would definitely perform decently compared to some other choices. Her unique role as a secondary supporter is very interesting, providing both general tools that enable big bursts of damage, as well as special tools that can dismantle certain boss gimmicks. She is however very vulnerable to debuff resistance and immunity, as those effects quite literally renders her entire skill set useless. If you want a secondary support that can assist you in more flashy clears of high difficulty content, or you are a big fan and is willing to make up her weaknesses with extreme commitment and investment in the materials, I think you'll find Carmilla a decently fun servant to play around with. It kinda sucks that Carmilla isn't the strongest servant, to say the least. I find a lot of trouble when trying to use her in CQTAs and a lot of other boss fights, as she does have some glaring weaknesses that can really easily cripple her entire game plan. However, I do think that after this banner and getting her to 120, it will at least mitigate part of her damage problems, and hopefully we can see more Carmilla on my channel in the future. I do know this video is a little bit more personal, as I feel like most people probably wouldn't go for Carmilla unless they're a big fan. But if you do still want a esports servant for your TA roster, I think picking a copy up, is pretty good. So anyways, no matter if you're rolling for Summer Carmilla or rulertoria, I wish you the best of luck on the future banner. And I'll see you guys in the next video.